Think back 10 years, not to a specific day, just the whole stretch. 10 years of your life. It's gone, isn't it? Not gone like you forgot it. Gone like it was shorter than it should have been. Like somebody took a decade off the shelf and handed it back lighter. Now here's the part that should bother you. Ask a 19-year-old how fast last week went, and ask a 60-year-old the same thing, and you get basically the same answer. Same for last month. Same for last year. The speeding up doesn't show up in weeks. It shows up in decades. So whatever is happening to you, it isn't happening minute by minute. It's happening to the part of your brain that stores the years. And in 2026, researchers tested the explanation almost everyone gives for it, including the one you're about to think of. It didn't hold up. Your brain is running a program that quietly eats your decades. Today you're going to see exactly how it works, and the one thing that actually turns it around. Let's clear the obvious one out of the way fast, because you've heard it and it's wrong. The idea goes like this. When you're 10, 1 year is a tenth of everything you've ever lived. When you're 50, that same year is a 50th. So each year is a smaller slice of the pie, and smaller slices feel shorter. It's tidy. It sounds like math, and people have been repeating it since 1877. Here's how you break it. That theory doesn't just say time feels faster. It makes a specific prediction about how much faster. Go back to when you were a quarter of your current age, and the theory says that time should have felt about 4 times slower than now. 4 times. So researchers did the obvious thing. They asked people, and people said about 1.5. Not 4, 1.58. That's not a small miss. The theory overshoots reality by more than double. Whatever is eating your decades, it is not simple arithmetic about the size of a slice. Okay, so here's the better explanation. The one you'll find almost everywhere. You stopped making memories. The story goes, when you were young, everything was new. First job, first apartment, first heartbreak. Your brain was laying down memory after memory, and when you look back, all those memories stack up into something that feels long. Then life settled. Same job, same drive, same weeks, fewer new memories. So the decade collapses into a thin little file, and thin files feel short. That's a good story. It's been the standard answer for years. In 2026, a team working across Freiburg, Zurich, and Rome finally tested it directly. 120 people, ages 20 to 91. They pulled out people's actual autobiographical memories from the past year and the past decade, counted them, and then asked how fast that decade had felt. If the story were right, the people with fewer memories should be the ones saying the decade vanished. There was no link. None. The number of memories people could recall had no relationship to how fast their decade felt. And here's the detail that really breaks it. The older adults described their memories as more vivid and more meaningful than the younger ones did. Not a thin file, a rich one. So it isn't that you stop making memories. What did track with it in that study was something narrower. How well people were still taking in new information. Not what's already stored, what's still going in. And I want to be careful here because that's one study of 120 people. It's a correlation. And the same researchers found those older memories were the richest ones in the room. So hold it loosely. But it points somewhere. If it isn't the size of your memory pile, then your brain must be measuring a decade some other way. A second team, also in 2026, worked out exactly what it counts. And it is not what you'd guess. Let me run something on you. 2 afternoons, both exactly 4 hours. Afternoon 1, you sat on the couch and watched a show. 4 hours, one thing. Afternoon 2, you got a coffee, took a call, walked somewhere new, got caught in the rain, ducked into a store, ran into someone you knew. 4 hours, 6 things. Which one feels longer when you look back? Obvious, right? The second one. But notice why, because it's not what you'd guess. It's not that afternoon 2 had better moments, or more interesting ones, or ones you remember in more detail. It's that afternoon 2 had more edges, more points where one thing stopped and another started. Researchers call those event boundaries, and in 2026 they measured exactly what they're worth. 48 people watched 30 short videos, each one 80 seconds long, each containing a few separate little scenes. Then they were asked how long each video had lasted. Every extra scene a person remembered added about 12 seconds to how long that video felt. 12 seconds on an 80-second clip from remembering one more boundary. And here's the kicker: how accurately people remembered what actually happened, the gist of it, made almost no difference at all. The details didn't matter. The count of edges did. Your brain doesn't measure a stretch of time by how much happened in it or how vividly you remember it. It measures it by how many times something changed. And that leads somewhere strange, because it means you are running two clocks at once, and they don't agree. Clock 1 is the moment you're in right now. That one runs on attention. When you're absorbed, it flies. When you're bored in a waiting room, it crawls. You felt both. Clock 2 is the replay. That one doesn't run on attention at all. It runs on the count of edges, and you only ever read it afterward. Back in the 90s, researchers caught the two clocks disagreeing in a lab. When they took a stretch of experience and deliberately chopped it into labeled chunks, people's memory of how long it lasted got longer. But their sense of how long it felt while it was happening didn't budge at all. Same stretch of time. Chop it up, and only the replay gets longer. That's the thing everybody has felt on a good trip and never had a name for. The week is gone in a blink while you're living it. Then you get home, and that week sits in your head like a month. Both are true. They're two different clocks reading two different things. So when you say a decade disappeared, you're not reporting on how it felt to live it. You're reading clock 2. You're reading a boundary count. Now, before we go further, I want to be straight with you about the size of this thing, because almost nobody is. This effect is real. It's also smaller and narrower than you've been told. A study of 499 people, ages 14 to 94, found that age explains at most about 10% of how fast time feels. 10%, which means 90% of it is other stuff. It gets narrower. That same study found the speeding up runs from your teens into your 50s, and then it stops. Around 60, it plateaus. It does not keep accelerating forever. And the big one, a separate study of 1,865 adults confirmed it. For the last week, the last month, even the last year, the difference between young and old is very small. So if anyone tells you every single year is flying faster than the last one, that isn't what the data says. The Vanishing Act only really shows up when you look at a decade, which actually fits everything we just learned. A week has enough edges in it to feel like a week at any age. A decade of repeated weeks is where the edges disappear. So picture what your brain is actually doing when it tries to measure 10 years. It doesn't have a clock for that. It can't. It goes looking for boundaries, moments where something changed. When you were younger, those were everywhere, and not because you were happier or more alive, because you hadn't done any of it yet. New school, new city, new job, new person. Every one of those is an edge, and your brain counted every single one. Then your life got good at itself. You found the job. You found the route to work. You found the 4 meals you actually make. And every one of those is a genuine win. That's what having your life together looks like. It also means your brain went looking for edges in the last 10 years and found the same Tuesday over and over. That's the program. Not that you stop making memories, not that a year is a smaller slice of the pie. Your brain measures a decade by counting the time something changed, and a well-run life quietly stops producing changes. The better your routine gets, the less your brain has to count. So what do you do about it? Let me give you the technically correct answer first, and you'll see immediately why it's useless. Time also stretches when you're terrified, or in pain, or bored out of your mind. So if you want your life to feel longer, All you have to do is fill it with fear and boredom. There you go. Be miserable. Time slows right down. You're welcome. Obviously not. But it points at something real, which is that we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. Clock 1, the one running right now, is basically not yours. You don't get to decide to be absorbed, and the reliable ways to slow it down are fear, pain, and boredom. That's the whole menu. But Clock 2 is completely different. Clock 2 doesn't get read until later, which means you have the entire time between now and later to change what it says. Not how fast this afternoon feels. How long this year feels when you're standing at the end of it, looking back. And you now know exactly what that measurement runs on. Edges. So the switch is this. Stop trying to make your life more exciting and start making it more divided. Those are not the same thing, and the difference is the whole point. You don't need a life-changing trip. You need more moments where one thing clearly stops and another clearly starts. Take the other route home. Eat lunch somewhere that isn't your desk. Move one recurring thing to a different day. Mark the beginning of something. Mark the end of something. Say the date out loud. It sounds almost too small, but remember what the lab found. One extra remembered boundary was worth 12 seconds on an 80-second clip. The boundary did the work, not the drama inside it. A year with 40 edges in it will feel like a year. A year with 4 will feel like a long weekend you can't quite account for. So here's the whole program on one card. 1. The feeling is real, but it's narrow. It barely shows up in weeks or months. It plateaus around 60, and it explains maybe 10% of the story. 2. It is not because a year is a smaller fraction of your life. That theory predicts 4 times slower. People report about 1.5. 3. It is not because you stop making memories. That got tested in 2026 across 3 countries, and the number of memories had no link to it at all. 4. Your brain measures long stretches of time by counting boundaries, 12 seconds per remembered edge, and the details inside them barely matter. 5. The switch isn't a more exciting life, it's a more divided one. Now the twist, and it's the part I'd actually keep. The reason your decade vanished is that you got good at living. You stopped bouncing between disasters. You built a routine that works. Every one of those repeated Tuesdays is a small victory. The cost is that a life that runs smoothly gives your brain almost nothing to count. So the very thing that made your life easier is the thing that made it feel short. You don't have to blow that up. You just have to interrupt it on purpose, every so often, so there's something to count. One more thing before you go. Sometime soon you're going to walk into a room you have never been in, and your whole body is going to tell you that you have been there before. Same light, same words, an exact repeat of a moment that is happening for the first time. Why does your brain fake a memory of something happening right now? That's the next program. And by the way, this video was about 14 minutes long. How long did it